Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe my channel. The applause that usually greeted Arthur Pender as he stepped onto the stage of the People's Voice Forum was absent. Instead, a thick, simmering silence filled the community hall. The air smelled of old wood, weak coffee, and palpable disillusionment. Arthur had built his career here. For 20 years, his weekly radio show had been a beacon for the local community. He was the man who championed the small bookstore against the online giant, who amplified the campaign to save the local park, who railed against the fast fashion chain trying to push out the family-owned haberdashery. His motto, printed on bumper stickers and t-shirts, was "Local First." Now he stood before the very people who had bought those t-shirts, their faces etched with the sense of personal betrayal. It had been splashed across the business section of the morning paper. Pender's Local First platform sold to Apex Global. Apex Global was the very definition of the faceless corporate behemoth he had always fought. The article detailed how Arthur hadn't just endorsed them, he had sold his entire brand, the show name, the archives, the motto itself, for a sum with more zeros than most of his listeners would see in a lifetime. He cleared his throat, the sound unnaturally loud in the hush. "Thank you for coming," he began, his famous, reassuring baritone sounding hollow. A man in the front row, whom Arthur recognized as the owner of the hardware store he'd once helped save from a predatory landlord, stood up. He didn't shout. His voice was quiet, laced with a pain that was worse than anger. "Why, Arthur? We believed you. We were local first." This broke the dam. A chorus of voices rose, not in a unified chant, but in a cacophony of heartbreak. "You interviewed me when my bakery was struggling," a woman cried out. "You said we were the backbone of this city. My son wrote his college essay on your integrity in the modern age talk. You used my family's story about the factory closure. Was that just content to you?" The word content hit Arthur like a physical blow. He looked out at the crowd, the baker, the teacher, the retired postal worker. These weren't fans, they were his neighbors. He had shared their triumphs and tragedies on the air for 2 decades. He had made them feel heard. Now he had made them feel foolish. He held up his hands, a gesture of surrender. The crowd quieted, not out of respect, but to hear the confession. "I have no excuse," he started, abandoning his prepared notes. "I have explanations, justifications I've been telling myself. Security for my family, the reach of a larger platform, the fear that this," he gestured around the modest hall, "was becoming obsolete." He paused, his gaze dropping to the lectern. "But you're right, it was a betrayal. I sold the words 'local first' to a corporation that has no concept of what they mean. I sold the trust you placed in me. I packaged our shared values and put a price tag on them." He looked at the hardware store owner. "You ask why, Tom. The truth is uglier than you think. I started to believe my own publicity. I started to think I was the brand, that I was the cause. I forgot that the cause was you, your shops, your community, your lives. I was just the megaphone. And then I sold the megaphone to the other side." The silence returned, deeper and more profound than before. The anger had been vented, and what remained was the grim reality of a broken covenant. "I am terminating the deal with Apex Global," he said, his voice firm for the first time. "The financial penalty will be severe. It will likely cost me everything I have, but it is the only thing I can do." He stepped out from behind the lectern, moving to the front of the stage, putting himself physically closer to their judgment. "The show, as you knew it, is over. I won't insult you by pretending I can just go back on the air, but if you'll allow it, I'd like to just listen tonight. Not as a host, but as a man who needs to be reminded what he almost lost." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Tom, the hardware store owner, slowly sat down. He didn't nod, he didn't smile, but he stayed. One by one, the others in the hall followed suit. They didn't forgive him. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. But they remained in their seats, a community assessing the damage, deciding if the man who had once been their voice was worth listening to again, even for one last, painful silence.